Another one. This episode opens with me accosting their ears and then us both shifting for 10 minutes on the couch. Oh my God.
I'm so uncomfortable.
We're so old. As I stand up from twerking to stretch my back out. Jesus.
Man, I did feel it though after working yesterday.
Yeah, you went through an ordeal.
And like I was like, I am so old. And I got home and I said, husband, can you, I always feel so bad because and that's like part of the reason why I waited so long. So I did ask for my birthday. I got a massage like gift card, like to go to a massage parlor, like an actual massage parlor, like a spa. And I was like, spa?
Are you trying to say spaghetti?
A spa.
What is your spaghetti policy here?
But like when my husband rubs when he rubs my back.
Thank you for finishing that because I was gonna make it really dirty. I was like, rubs your what? Rubs your what, Beth?
And, you know, like even shoulders and stuff. I end up like I am so tense, and by the time I am asking someone, hey, can you rub my shoulders or rub my like lower back because I have like a knot in there, inevitably I make like a inappropriate noise, like a very moany moan of like, thank you for fixing my back. And I'm like, I'm just so afraid I'm gonna go to like a massage place and they're gonna be like, ma'am, you need to cork your mouth. Like, what are you doing? That is inappropriate. I'm like, I don't want to make somebody uncomfortable. They're just doing their job. They're literally getting paid to rub a body. Like, I don't want them to be like, you know. But then I'm like, Beth, you're probably overthinking it. There's probably people that make a lot of weird noises.
Oh, for sure. Like, there's probably people who do like really gross stuff.
But I did have my husband yesterday. I was like, I mean this in the most non-sexual way. If I bend over, can you just rub my lower back? And then he did, and I made a lot of noises. And then as soon as I was like, all right, it's too much. It's too much. It's so tense that I can't handle anymore, like, of a massage. Like, I'm gonna cry. And then I stood up, and I heard, like, a kunk of my back, like, cracking. And I was just like, oh, I feel so much better. And then I'm just like, Beth, you can't stand and stoop over a table for 4+ hours interacting with small children anymore. You gotta sit down sometimes. You're not 20 something anymore. Now you're older than that. You're heading towards middle age. I'm not saying I can't keep up with stuff. I'm just saying I probably need to stretch more often. Like,
I gotta build some core strength. That's my problem.
Yes. That too. I just need to work out more. I'm
Last episode was brought to you by squats. This one is brought to you by mountain climbers and Supermans.
Yep. Gotta work on those core muscles.
But never burpees. Fuck you, burpees.
Who invented those?
A masochist.
I just want to talk. Because I also don't know how to do them well. And I go watch people do them and I'm like, why? What does that do? Is there an easier way to do what you're doing? Because why?
Yeah.
You know who probably has, actually...
Don't do this to me, Beth. I can't sexualize another cryptid.
Well, we're going to talk about another cryptid today. I had an okay segue, and now I can't use it, so...
You want to know who has ripped, sexy abs? Probably the Werewolf of Defiance.
I was just going to say, you know who probably has good core strength? The Werewolf of Defiance.
You know who would probably wolf handle you?
Oh my God.
And then hold you tenderly afterwards? The Werewolf of Defiance.
Not where I was going to go at all.
Well, we're there now.
What? This... Horny jail.
I don't even read.
What is happening?
I don't even read that kind of like romance book. Erotica.
I do. I read paranormal romance.
Stuff. I don't.
I read the Shifter romance.
I don't know where it's coming from. Blame the eclipse.
I read. I read all those new Bride by Allie Hazelwood. I read that, and yeah. I was like, whatever. It is what it is. But here we are right now. And Britta is broken a little bit.
I'm fine.
Anyways, welcome to the Lake Eerie Library, where we're going to talk about the Werewolf of Defiance.
This feels like I'm not making fun of him because he's like part dog, but I dropped my chapstick and it's like one of those EOS ball ones, and I feel like a dog who lost its toy under the couch.
Do you want me to grab it?
One of us needs to get it because I'm not going to be able to pay attention. If you can't reach it, I'll get it. I think it went back. Towards us.
Oh, I rolled it under the couch for
Oh, no!
This isn't dog energy. This is toddler energy.
Hey! My ball! It's under the couch! Hey! If I was your toddler, I would have picked it up and thrown it across the room. Like they did to the Paw Patrol toy when I got here.
That's just how they show affection.
Let's just hope that that's still on. Don't worry about it. We'll get it after. I'll just try to pay attention.
I got it.
Oh my god, you're magic.
Okay. It's fine. Everything's fine. We'll edit out all the god-awful noises that
I'm going to edit this episode so this whole thing is just the noises with no context. It's just put it on loop and I'll put a reverb on it.
Oh, boy. So...
And at the end, I'll play Pony by Genuine.
So, the Werewolf of Ohio, this actually started in the 1970s. And it's in Defiance, Ohio, which is about, I was going to say 50 minutes, but I think it's 50 miles away from Toledo. So you're talking northwest Ohio.
Did we go like complete opposite direction from Loveland?
We did. Well, sort of. We're still on the Loveland's like
side,
Cincinnati,
just south to north.
Yeah.
Okay.
But opposite sides of the state.
Okay.
So anyways, with the Werewolf of Ohio, this started with a string of werewolf sightings in the 1970s from people that lived in Defiance, Ohio. And you might be like, now Beth, that seems silly. Well, it wasn't silly. It literally made the news and was officially investigated by police officers. So the story begins with two railway workers hooking up train cars late at night. One looks over to see a towering werewolf, fangs bared, who proceeds to attack the hapless victim. This is the story that Ted Davis reported to police in 1972. They're saying he said rather than being attacked by claws, he was attacked with a club. So he picked up like a stick. And he wasn't the only person that saw this dog man or this wolf man. So another employee of the railway also reported a wolf man stalking the rails. Then a week later, a grocery store worker was driving home and saw the werewolf in its headlights. So the Defiance police opened an investigation in a neighboring...
I thought you were going to say open fire. I'm traumatized from that poor frog man getting shot.
A neighboring Toledo newspaper did get a hold of the story, and suddenly it is werewolf fever in Defiance. So this, because it made local newspapers, all of a sudden, like, this kind of took Defiance by storm. So everybody's like, did you see that newspaper? Well, we gotta watch out for this werewolf. Like, keep your kids at home at night. Like, there's a werewolf out and about. Unfortunately, the police looked into it for a few weeks and found nothing, like no evidence whatsoever. They just had all these eyewitness testimonies and they couldn't do anything with it. So they closed the case. So they didn't really do anything more with it, but the locals still talk about it to this day. Obviously, we talk about it as well. Like, it is a Ohio cryptid legend. But trying to see if there's any more details. So this occurred on July 25th, 1972, and the railroad people were working a graveyard shift. Ted Davis told the Toledo Blade, "I saw these two hairy feet. Then I looked up and he was standing there with a big stick over his shoulder. When he started to say something, he took off in the woods. The creature was described as having huge hairy feet, fangs, and ran side to side like a caveman in the movies. And then...
Huge feet, you say?
Stop. Stop. And then, after the first encounter, Davis claims to have seen the creature at the same place as the first encounter, the rail yard. He said he looked at him from the edge of the woods, and then it turned and left. That same night, the grocer reported an attack from the hairy-headed animal wielding a 2x4. So this isn't your typical werewolf. Like,
Right,
it's wielding...
He's clearly having batting practice, and you guys keep interrupting him.
At the railroad? At the night shift?
Yeah, Nightball. They did that in Sandlot. Remember on the 4th of July with the fireworks?
Yeah. So, nothing. So, obviously, they're in a small town, and the headline of this initial, encounter was horror movie now playing on 5th Street, which is actually a really great headline. And it opened with the famous poem from the Wolfman. Even a man who is pure at heart and says his prayers every night may become a wolf when the wolfbane blooms and the moon is clear and bright. The Crescent News, which is the local newspaper in the Toledo Blade, ran a total of 4 articles about the incident. The longest of the articles focused on the local police's investigation of the incident. They extensively searched for the werewolf, and the general public thought it was a bored teenagers prank, so they were like, obviously it's just somebody in a bad werewolf costume.
Rude.
Chief Breckler at the time considered the club-wielding animal-faced assailant as a threat to the community. But, as I said, they looked for days with just no evidence whatsoever. They also, most people who read into stuff about Defiance also wanted to note that they're also known for their amount of... Yes, they're known for their amount of UFOs that they see per year. They have a high amount that is reported on. A Dracula lookalike that has run amok, which
we're getting the whole mod squad.
Yes,
the monster squad is in full gathering in Defiance.
They did say in this article, werewolf case in Defiance not viewed lightly by police. I can't read it because it's the way it's zoomed in. It's really blurry. Oh, wait a minute. So it says, some people here are jokingly referring it to as the case of the werewolf, but Defiance police are serious about it. 3 persons have told police they saw a large beast that resembles a werewolf looking along railroad tracks in downtown Defiance in the last week. In each case, he was spotted during the early morning hours, and one man, a train crewman switching trains, said that he was approached from behind and was struck on the shoulder by a piece of 2x4 lumber. But when he ran, the werewolf also disappeared in some nearby brush. So
I need a timeout.
Oh, okay.
Everything. No, not a real one. It just everything you're saying now, my brain is just make it dirty. Make it nasty.
The other reported incidents, the werewolf was seen by another train crewman about 3 a.m. The police say the third report came from a motorist who saw it in front of the car at 4 a.m. and then it quickly disappeared. We don't know what to think, Police Chief Donald Breckler said. We didn't release it to the news media when we first got the reports a week ago, but now we're taking it seriously. We're concerned for the safety of our people. He said that the descriptions of the werewolf given by the 3 persons who are not giving their names were very similar, but each description of the werewolf was very vague. Very hairy is the first description by each person who saw the werewolf. The chief said he thinks that it's a person wearing some disguise, such as a mask, but there is a lot of natural hair too. I'm inclined to think it might be a local person, Chief Breckler said. None of the other area towns have had anything like this, and in each case they've been seen in the same area of the town. Chief Breckler says that the creature wears dark clothing, and first reports described it as ranging from 7 to 9 feet tall. But that is a little exaggerated. I mean, I guess it's not unusual to be 7 feet tall, right? That's not an it's a tall height, but it's not the most unusual height.
I mean,
the guy that plays Chewbacca is almost 7 feet tall.
Yeah, but it's not there's a ton of people that height around.
I will definitely tell you, was in Pennsylvania for the day a few weeks ago,
Mm-hmm.
and me and my husband kept passing this person in the store, and I swear to God, they were like 7 feet tall, because I maybe came up to the middle of their chest.
Well, we have a friend who is almost 7 feet tall. You and I both know someone.
Oh, yes. And I kept, like, they were very young, too. So I was like, they're not even finished with, like, their full development. They could grow another 3 inches. What the heck? And they were with, like, there was a young man, and they were with their grandma, and the grandma was, like, their lower arms, like, tiny. There was, like, I can't tell if they're so tall, or if, like, grandma is just so short that they look extremely tall by comparison.
Probably both. I don't know what that is. I mean, like, obviously, yes, there are tall people that exist and, like, have existed in that height range, but it's not like, I feel like that's still pretty unusually tall at 7 feet.
So they didn't get a motive or an idea. Like, he obviously hit the one person, but it's like, did he hit that person because he was, like, surprised? Like, what are you doing here at night?
I say yes, self-defense.
They said they don't think it's a prank. He's coming at people with a club in his hand. We think it's to the safety of our people to be concerned. Nothing really happened with that, but I will say that werewolf legends have been around for hundreds of thousands of years.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they started really with, like, they kind of coincided with the with witches, and, like, the discovery of witches, and, like, and the hunt for werewolves, especially in Europe, was prevalent during, like, the hysteria of, like, witchcraft and the witch hunts of, like, the 15 and 1600s. And that was, like, kind of the height of, like, being afraid of werewolves, and then it died down. But we've had literally the idea of shapeshifters and stuff since, like, the beginning of mankind. And, like, werewolves and wolves in particular being, like, the word lycanthrope comes from ancient Greek. So,
Greek word.
yes.
Sorry, I just watched the 3rd Big Fat Greek Wedding,
Oh.
so they're always like, that's a Greek word. And they're like, yes, we know, we're Greek.
So, yeah, I think it's, like, interesting that they have this. Some of them believe that, you know, there's some beliefs that, like, lycanthropy is a medical condition. And they try to explain, some researchers try to explain, like, the ideas of being a werewolf as, like, modern issues, like modern medical issues. So, they tried to say in, like, 1963, Dr. Lee Illis tries to argue that historical accounts on werewolves could have been, in fact, referring to victims of congenital porphyria, which is symptoms of photosensitivity, reddish teeth, and psychosis. This was argued against, who said how mythological werewolves almost invariably portrayed are resembled as true wolves, and their human forms rarely had, like, these physical, like, you hear about, like, werewolf symptoms, like, oh, if your index finger and your middle finger are the same length, you're a werewolf. If, like, you're extremely hairy, you might be a werewolf. They also suggested as rabies as being an origin of werewolf beliefs, with the idea that being bitten by a werewolf could result in the victim turning into one, which is very, like, transmittable diseases like rabies. Rabies is so scary because we don't have a cure for it. I think about that and I don't like it. It really messes me up. Probably also one of the reasons why I don't want to read Cujo as well. Harkening back to a previous episode, like, they have rabies, and rabies is not curable. Like, once you start showing the symptoms of rabies, it's usually too late for you to get the cure for rabies.
Well, that's why when you get, like, bit by a dog or, like, any kind of, like, wild animal, you, like, only have, like, it's within the first 24 hours that you have to get the rabies vaccine if you're gonna get the shot. And it's, like, a series of shots. I'm not saying that that's going to be the next, like, I was just reading a thing about how with
the pandemic as we dealt with it. Like, we have now, researchers are now afraid because they're like, if we have another pandemic, which is not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, the United States has shown they are not extremely prepared for it. And they are like, this could really wipe us out, like, no joke. And I'm not to bring up brain amoebas, but like stuff.
I knew you were gonna come back to the dang brain amoebas.
But there is stuff that we have just not, like mad cow disease, like pyrons. You know what I'm talking about? That's what mad cow disease is like made of. Is like we don't know. Well, we don't know stuff about it. There's like stuff we don't know, and we have not figured out like a lot about it. And I'm not saying that's what rabies is. We know more about rabies, but we have also not discovered a cure for rabies, like, past a certain point. So if you're, like, past this, like, 24-hour mark, we're like, nope, no return. You're going to die of rabies. And it's, like, a terrible way to go. And it's, if you have rabies, that you can transmit it to other people. So I just think it's interesting that, like, around the same time that we had the Loveland Frog in Cincinnati, we also had sightings of a werewolf, like, north in, like, the Toledo-esque area. And we never really got any, like, what it was. And I think we also assume that both of them are men, that they're male cryptids, which is interesting. Like, why do we assume both of them are male?
Because of the audacity. Like, I don't think a female cryptid would be, like, running around in, like, plain sight where, like, idiot humans could see them and shoot them. They would be, like, minding their own business, staying moisturized and hydrated, and, like, taking care of what they need to take care of. They would not be, like, running around at night with 2x4s.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that is pretty, like you were hitting somebody with a 2x4. Like,
I mean, I would hit someone with a 2x4, but I probably would not be out doing, like, shenanigans at that time of night when other people would be around.
Well, and it does make you wonder, like, so say somebody, like, all right, let's just let this play out. Like, let's say this person really, there is, like, a werewolf in Defiance, right? And what we know about werewolves is they are human until, like, the pull of the moon, and then they transform into a wolf. And they, from what I've read, this person was not fully wolf-like. They are kind of what our modern take of a werewolf, where they're like they're really a hybrid. They're a wolf-man hybrid, because if you look at, like, a werewolf in, I'm trying to think of what movie has come out late. Like, if you watch Twilight, bear with me here, the wolves in that are fully wolves.
Yeah,
like, they are
a
giant.
A dire wolf situation.
They are giant wolves. But if you watch The Wolfman,
or, like, an American Werewolf in Paris or London,
like, you are not fully human, but you can stand bipedally, so you're standing upright. This werewolf had clothes on, so it still had, like, an outfit on, a dark outfit.
Survived the transition, unlike Hulk.
Yeah. And so thinking about that, I'm like, so you're still 7 to 9 feet tall, but your clothes fit you well enough that they survive the transition, but you're extremely hairy, but only really, and you don't have, well, we don't know if you have claws, but if you had claws, you have use of your hands like a human with a thumb, because dogs and wolves don't have, like, opposable thumbs, and you can't hold a 2x4 with a paw.
You have to hold it like a palm-to-palm situation.
And like, what kind of grip do you got with that? So the most wolf-like thing is the face, right? So that's what people commented on. It had a very wolfy face. So it's just like, could it be a person in a costume? Could it be if it's a lycanthrope? Like, you're really not getting a full wolf effect. It's not a full shape-shifting thing. It's like a hybrid of, like, I got these wolfy features. So if it was somebody dressed up, which maybe it was, and then, like, the cops came and they're like, oh shit, like, this is a prank gone wrong, oh no. But, like, if it is like somebody who is a werewolf for some reason, maybe they did like they woke up the next day and was like, ah, man, and maybe they had beef with those railroad workers. I don't know. Like,
right?
They were like, man, these shitheads I work with, I don't want to deal with them.
Dog, you ate my fucking sandwich the other day, and now I have so much rage in my wolfman body. Get over here. I'm hitting you with a 2x4.
Right. Because, I mean, I think you said at one point, like with Cujo, like when he's like, you get the perspective of the dog. So you do wonder, like, they always do. That's like in Buffy and stuff like that. And like all the werewolf, like, they're like, no, you don't have any, like, the wolf is in you and it's a primal dog instinct. But I was like, dogs can reason somewhat. They say that dogs have like the mind of like a 2 or 3 year old. Like, They remember things, they smell things, they make connections, they understand what some words and stuff are. So I'm just saying, like, I don't know if it's somebody who I think they had a vendetta and then they smack somebody with a 2x4 and they're like, they'll never know it was me, right? Like, they obviously didn't show any signs because they never pointed out. Like, it's not like, oh man, did you see Joe? Man, he's looking a little wolfy lately. He's got long, scraggly hair. Have you ever looked at his canines? They are so pointy.
I just want to point out that recently, like within the last few days, you have described one of our coworkers as wolfish and also went on a tangent about the size of people's teeth. I feel like you are prejudiced against werewolves, Beth.
I am not prejudiced against werewolves. I've read too many werewolf romance books to be prejudiced against werewolves.
I mean, hate to love is a trope. It's one of my favorites.
I will say with like, I guess with teeth, I notice teeth because I don't have very pointy canines. Like, you're looking at me right now. My canines are extremely flat. Like, look.
Mm-hmm.
They're very flat. And I have a tater tot who is developing teeth. So I just notice teeth because that's just something I've always noticed. I guess I have always had nice teeth too. So I notice when people have really, and like the person I was talking about and judging their teeth had some wonkadoo teeth. And to be fair, they had chipped their teeth on like a ham sandwich.
I thought you were going to say they had a bad attitude. And I was like, yeah, they had a bad personality.
Yes, well, they did. That's beside the fact. They had chipped their teeth when I was talking about it. So it's like I couldn't look at their top teeth because they were all messed up and they were super chipped. And I was like, it looks painful to look at your top teeth. But then their bottom teeth didn't match their top teeth. And I just was like, I don't know where to look on your face. So now I'm going to try your forehead trick and see if that works.
Yeah, look right between the eyebrows.
So, yeah. Anyways, I guess too, I wish there was more stories about I guess we'll have to take a trip out to Defiance, or if any of you from that area, like, you know, let us know. Is there any more to the story? Has any other local legends, like if you go to that rail yard, well, does it still exist? 1, 2, like, do people still talk about the werewolf? Is that like your little claim to fame? To me, when I hear Defiance, Ohio, I think of that one story. I don't know. There's like a book that was written that has Defiance, Ohio in the title, I think. But I might be thinking of another one. It was like checked out a lot when I first started.
Where does Cycle of the Werewolf take place in Ohio?
I don't know. I haven't read that one by Uncle Steve, as we like to call him. But yeah, I guess if you guys are interested in kind of werewolf literature and stuff, there's a plethora.
No, it's in Maine. Tarker's Mill, Maine. Sorry.
That's all right. But there is a plethora of werewolf literature, and it is also a very big paranormal romance, like, trope. People love them, some werewolves. And I think they fit well with, like, the idea of a lumberjack and, like, masculinity, too. Like, they always have these, like, heroes that
raw animal magnetism.
Yes. So it's just very interesting. I will say my dive into studying werewolves as a kid, there was this, like, when I was a child and I went to our local library, I read this book, and I just remember it because it was like a square book, but it was on the bigger side, and it was in the children's nonfiction section. It had a cover so it was a black, like, bound book, but it had a cover with this werewolf that was, like, green on it. And I remember that went through, like, the history of, like, a werewolf. It went through, like, this, like, kind of like the DK Eyewitness books, but, like, for werewolves. And then they had one for vampires. And when I first started at our library, we had the one on vampires, but not the one on werewolves. And I'm like, I would like to own those someday, but I have to dig on the internet for them because I can't remember the exact title of the book. So, yeah.
I think
our childhood was unhinged, by the way, for just paranormal like books.
For sure. I think my werewolf connection, well, obviously I grew up on Teen Wolf because I was born in the 80s. In my more like formative years, I was like big into An American Werewolf in Paris because it had Tom Everett Scott in it. And like, again, that's from 1997, the best year that has existed in my lifetime. But I just remember I watched that movie a lot, it is like the same story essentially as An American Werewolf in London. Right. But they just updated it, and then like Julie Delphi is in it, so it's in Paris. Right. So, yeah, I just remember like a scene where somebody eats a heart. It's like it like stuck in my little like 11 or 12-year-old brain at the time.
I was too little to see that movie, but I do remember the trailers coming out. So I haven't seen the sequel. I've only seen the original, which is
An American Werewolf in London.
Yes, which is fantastic, and it rightly deserved the Oscar it got for best like special effects or makeup. I think it was best makeup. I would definitely say if you're really into werewolf stuff, there is a lot of at least literature and media that you can also consume to validate your feelings and opinions about werewolves beyond Twilight, which I feel like doesn't do a good job for werewolves. And there's a lot of, especially indigenous like people who have come out and are like, they did not
do that anymore.
So I'm like, there's better stories out there, which American Werewolf in London is solidly a better choice.
I mean, there is usually like a weird if I remember correctly, like those stories all kind of have like a weird slightly derogatory depiction of Romani people. I don't know if that because I remember he has a dream that he's like becomes a Nazi, and that part's really disturbing if you're not sure what's happening because he's like transforming. But like the original Wolfman has like that happen where he goes to like there's a circus in town and stuff like that, and he gets his fortune told and all that fun stuff. Yeah. And that one is unfortunate, but in the American Werewolf in London, he's just out on the moors because he's lost and he gets like bit by a werewolf. So he doesn't like they don't talk about the origin of like where'd you get bit? They don't know. I mean, maybe it's just because it's in Paris, but in that one, it's very sexy how it happens.
Well, listen. You didn't sexualize the Werewolf of Defiance. I'm happy. I
tried really hard to be good. It's probably good that I popped off about the bangability of Beauty and the Beast characters last episode.
Which would have like actually fit in probably better with this episode.
With Beast.
It's fine. Like we're past it. We're good. We, onward and upward.
Haunt your nightmares tonight. You're gonna have dreams about me marrying like a werewolf and the frogman coming and busting in Graduate style.
What does this mean?
What does it mean if your co-host marries a werewolf?
Bang, 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 bang. Britta!
The frogman, but it just comes out like
would like the frogman to have only a top hat on, though, like very Michigan J Frog,
like with like a monocle because
Yes.
he's fancy.
Britta.
I want the opposite. I want him to only be wearing high top Converse or like PF Flyers.
Wow, I haven't heard that brand in a long time.
It's because I brought up the Sandlot earlier. It's in the brain.
Yeah. So
the werewolf. Can the werewolf have like Pete Wentz emo bangs? Because then I'm super on board with it.
I just had now I'm picturing the werewolf because you know when you see werewolves in like on like TV and stuff like that, like or they always have that red plaid shirt on, and I'm just like, what? Why is that a thing? Who started that as a thing? But now I'm picturing for some reason Adventure Time, the God, what's Marceline's male counterpart?
Oh, Marshall Lee.
Marshall Lee. So I'm just picturing like a werewolf looking like that, like in that outfit, but like insert a werewolf. And
like you're just making them more appealing to me by making them emo. Like,
and then I'm like, but then I'm now thinking about I had to explain to some teenagers who that was because they're like, oh, Adventure Time, that old show. I heard about that, and I went, I'm dying. I'm floating away into dust. I'm so ancient. So yeah, I just feel like there's so much more content for werewolves, and there's probably stuff that I'm not bringing up all just general werewolf lore because that honestly would take way too long, and that's what Google is there for. Search it up, friends.
This is the Minisode.
That's right. So yeah, if you guys are interested. They don't have a werewolf festival, and that would probably bring out some real weirdos.
Yeah, I feel like Frogman is like just strange enough that it's like, it's our local fall festival, but then you bring werewolves into it, and you're gonna get a whole mess of weird monster effer literary girlies showing up.
Yes, I think that would be the issue, and I just. It's too close to furry territory. That's all. It's too close. So anyways, there's a lot of literature out there about werewolves. So if you're interested in werewolf literature and you're interested in werewolf lore, like please research it. There's a lot of, as I said, as a kid, I remember being able to just go to the library and pick up children's nonfiction that was pretty like detailed. And I'm like, holy crap. Do werewolves exist? I think they do now. It's in the nonfiction section.
How do they draw these pictures so well if there wasn't a reference?
And yeah, again, like very classic like movies and stuff like that you can consume. And I'm trying to think if there's any other, I mean, and they're now used as like
there's
sexy thing in romance.
One of the like web productions that I bring up all the time, I think it's Tin Can Bros, just did a web series about werewolves. This is the same people who did the Edgar Allan Poe's Murder Mystery Dinner Party. The Wayward Guide for the Untrained Eye is it's about a podcast host named Artemis and her twin brother Paul, who uncover a secret race of werewolves and have to decide who to trust and the price they're willing to pay for a juicy story. So they go to this like little town.
This reminds me of Cursed. Have you seen that movie?
I have, with Christina Ricci. Yeah.
That's like a solid werewolf movie.
And if you're a Glee person, Darren Criss is in it for a little bit. So
good for him. Haven't seen him in a while. Yeah, Cursed is a good, underrated werewolf movie. Somebody also just recently checked out Ginger Snaps, and I was like,
I was just gonna say Ginger Snaps. Oh, Sean Astin is also in Wayward Guide.
Oh,
Samwise Gamgee's in it.
Well, maybe I'll check it. I don't have a lot of like time where I just sit and watch stuff.
It's on YouTube, I believe. So like the episodes are not super long.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind. Maybe that'll be a work break thing. But anyways, yeah. So if you guys are into that, definitely check out. There's all sorts of werewolf media to consume. And if you have any stories about being in Defiance during that time and you saw the werewolf or read about it or something, let us know. Like,
where you made sweet, sweet love to it.
There we are. There we are. And yeah, as always, we'll come back to you next time with a regularly scheduled chunky episode like we like to do.
I like them chunky. I like them round.
And we hope that you have a great day. And we want to say thank you to our spooky sponsor.
Thank you, spooky sponsor.
And next time, we might be less horny. I don't know.
I make no guarantees. It's spring. I'm Twitter-pated.
Oh boy. All right. Stay spooky, friends.